But,
I don't know if it works though. But it's supposed to.
Yep, there it did.
Oh, there.
so welcome, everybody, to the Oakdale City Council regular meeting, May 10, 2022. Kathy, would you do roll call, please?
Councilmember Ingebrigtsen.
Here.
Councilmember Olson.
Here.
Councilmember Swedberg.
Here.
Councilmember Zabo.
Here.
Mayor Reinke.
Here. Please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So in front of us, councilors, we have the amended agenda, and I think City Administrator Volkers, you have a couple of comments about clarifications on order of things.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Three kind of corrections, changes. The oath of office that you see on the amended agenda needs to be done after consensus. Okay, so that's going to move to immediately after consensus above advisory boards. The second thing is we are going to add a proclamation, which you should have each received a copy because I passed it around earlier. It is National Peace Officers Memorial Day and Week. So Mayor Reinke will read that earlier on in the agenda. And the third thing is agenda item, consensus item P, like in Paul. The motion on the agenda has a wrong data typo. The RCA is correct. It should say, P should say from May 11, 2022 to June 30, 2023. That's just a typo there. And the RCA is correct, but I want to make sure it reflects the correct motion.
Okay, thank you. So with those requested amendments to the agenda, councilors, do you have any questions for City Administrator Volkers? Could I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended and amended.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the meeting agenda has been amended as requested. So first up, we're going to do two public hearings. One is the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, which is the annual report. And the second one is, there's just going to be one. I'm sorry. So welcome, Mr. Bachmeyer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is an annual hearing that we hold. It gives the property owners an opportunity to express any concerns or share any concerns they may have regarding our surface waters of our lakes, wetlands, and creeks. It is required by the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, Phase 2 requirements, which applied to cities that were under 100,000 in population, which Oakdale meets that requirement. Just wanted to touch on, there are two permits. One is the construction permit. It generally applies to construction projects. That was in effect on 2018, and it will expire in 2023. And again, that applies to construction projects. So that's all those best management practices that have to be applied during the course of construction, silt fence, erosion control, those kind of things. The other permit is the general permit, and that applies to cities that have storm sewer systems. And it really talks about what we need to do to maintain the storm sewer system. The DNR did adopt that national permit in November of 2020, and that expires in 2025, so it's a 5-year permit. We did get approval of our permit application. We had to go through that process last October. And as part of that, there are 5 things that we're going to need to do over the next year. One, we're going to have to update our ordinance to apply to the private storage of salt. If there are certain property maintenance facilities that have salt piles on their property, we're going to have to pass an ordinance regarding that. We also have to identify areas where there might be high risk of illicit discharges into our storm sewer system. We also need to provide some additional training to not only the public works staff, but also other public staff that drives around in our community, so fire and police. Those are 2 other departments that we're going to have to provide some training for. Also, some additional education for our residents regarding de-icing salts, using what they use on their sidewalks and driveways, and also the management of pet waste. And then the final one is more detailed written procedures regarding our site plan checklist, the inspections that we have to do and how frequently they are done, and those kind of policies. So those are 5 things that we are going to have to address over the next year. With that, I stand for any questions, and again, this is a hearing that gives residents an opportunity to express any concerns with surface waters.
Thank you very much. Before I open it up, just any questions, councilors, of Mr. Bachmeyer? Then I'm going to open it up to the public for any comments or questions about this annual report. So is anybody in the audience that would like to speak? I should say too, the general ground rules that we have for open forum or public hearings is to approach the podium, state your name and address, and then share your comments. Typically, we have a 3-minute guideline for the time limit. So is there anybody here that would like to speak on this annual report? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'll bring it back up front and entertain a motion. I should clarify, do I need a motion on this annual report, or is it just comments?
Just comments, Mr.
Right.
Mayor.
Sorry about that.
No,
So councilors, any comments? Seeing none, I'm going to say thank you.
Yeah.
Next up on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have 2 in front of us. One was from the workshop, City Council workshop, April 26th, and then the regular meeting of April 26th, 2022. Taking that workshop first, upon review, councilors, did you have any questions or comments? Do I have a motion then, please?
Motion to approve is presented.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting minutes are approved as presented. The second set deals with the regular meeting from the Oakdale City Council, April 26th, 2022. Upon review, were there any questions or comments or corrections? Could I have a motion then, please?
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those meeting minutes are approved as presented. Next up on the agenda is time for open forum. I think, Chris, this is where I can read the proclamation. So I'm going to read the proclamation, and I'm going to open it up to the floor. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to comment on anything going on in the city or any perceptions, please do so. If that occurs, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and then share your thoughts. It's really not a time for in-depth discussion, but we do want to hear your comments. So let me read this proclamation, and we'll go to the public. So the proclamation of the City of Oakdale, State of Minnesota. Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls is National Police Week to pay special recognition to law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. Whereas the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the IACP, has declared police officer safety and wellness a top priority. And the IACP's Center for Officer Safety and Wellness promotes the importance of individual, agency, family, and community safety and wellness awareness. And whereas it's important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the City of Oakdale commends the brave men and women of our law enforcement community for continually summoning the courage to fulfill their solemn oath to protect and serve. Whereas the City of Oakdale also takes pause to remember those men and women of our law enforcement community who have lost their lives or have suffered permanent disabilities defending their communities. And therefore I, Paul REINKE, Mayor of Oakdale, Minnesota, hereby proclaim May 11 to 17 as National Police Week to commemorate police officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all Oakdale's residents. In witness thereof, I have hereby set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Oakdale to be fixed on this 10th day of May, 2022. So very cool. Very cool. Let's move on to the open portion of the open forum then. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to comment about goings-ons in the city of Oakdale, please come forward and do so. Good evening, sir. You almost weren't going to come up.
You're right. Wasn't sure if it was just open forum or just anything. My name is Greg McGrath. I live at 2363 Gresham Avenue North, just north of here. And I was looking to get some signs installed in my neighborhood to enforce the speed limit, or just notify people that drive up and down our streets just what the speed limit is and stuff. I live in a community where they're all senior citizens, pretty much 75 years old, probably is the average age. But it's just north of here, and there's no speed limits. There's a big turn, a 90-degree turn around my neighborhood, and there's no speed limit signs in my neighborhood. People race up and down that street. It gets a lot of traffic and stuff. So if anything we can do to get a couple speed limit signs in our neighborhood, that would very much be appreciated. Whether I talk to you guys, or I present a plan to you guys, or do I talk to Public Works, or just what is the process involved in getting a couple speed limit signs installed in our neighborhood?
Chris, can I ask you to comment about the process, not necessarily in depth, but at least to follow up with Mr. McGrath, I think?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, Mr. McGrath. First, can you state your address for the record?
2363 Gresham Avenue North.
Okay, so now we have the information. So we will look it up, and before you leave, could you give your email address to the city clerk
Here we go.
or phone number?
There we go.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'll get in
And we'll
trouble
back
if I
to
give
you.
my email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And we're glad to get back to you after we
Sure,
talk
I
about it.
appreciate it,
Okay.
stuff like that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to comment? Okay, let's move on to the next one then. So next up on the agenda are our consensus motions. Tonight we have A through U. So upon review, councilors, do you want to pull any of them? Could I have a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion to approve consensus motions A through U as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Then the motion passes as presented. Thank you. Now, one of the really enjoyable parts of this job is to acknowledge and to conduct the oath of office to new police officers and key people in the organization. So I want to say is it pronounced PUDIL? Puddle, sir. Puddle? Thank you very much. Would you join me at the podium, please? Yes. Hi, Chief.
Would you like me to introduce Corey?
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Honorable Constable. I'd like to introduce you to our newest member of the Police Department, Corey Puddle. A little bit of information on Corey. He grew up in southern Minnesota, and he graduated from Minnesota State University with a 4-year degree in law enforcement. And Corey worked as a police officer in southern Minnesota, serving the city of Gaylord for almost 3 years.
Yes.
And, you know, when we were interviewing candidates for the position, Corey really jumped out at us because he really seemed to have the personality and the character of what we're looking for in a police officer. We believe Corey will serve our community with trust and respect, and those things we look for in our police officers. With that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Yeah.
And good evening.
Meet you.
Would you raise your right hand, please? And repeat after me. So I, Corey Puddle, do solemnly swear
I, Corey Puddle, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Minnesota,
of the State of Minnesota,
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
justly,
justly,
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of police officer
of police officer
for the city of Oakdale, Minnesota,
for the city of Oakdale, Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment
to the best of my judgment
and ability,
and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you. Very good. You're welcome to say a few words. Otherwise, we have a pinning ceremony.
I guess I just want, oh, sorry. Just wanted to say thanks for giving me this opportunity and, you know, really excited to start working.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Corey, do you have some for your family?
Yeah. Yeah, so you want to come up?
Good evening. Good evening. This is easy. I'll hold it.
Okay. You want to pin this on me?
Sure.
All right. See the hole right there?
Just don't stick them.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh, here's-
Lost.
you want some help?
Yeah, I want some help. Sorry.
It's okay.
I have clumsy hands. Thank you.
Got it?
Got it.
Very nice.
There you go.
So now we'd like to have some pictures. So council, will you join me? Come on up. Okay, please.
Great, thank you.
How about just one of the family? Council will leave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda, we have the advisory boards and commissions. And this is the time when each of us are representing or liaisoning with the various commissions in the city. If there's been meetings, then we get a chance to acknowledge and just talk about that little bit of meeting. So the first commission is the Economic Development Commission, where Councilmember Olson is the liaison.
So it was a good meeting. Tyler, and I know I'm going to say this wrong, Hilsebeck from the Washington County Business Advisor for Open to Business Program came in and kind of gave us an update on what's available for businesses for loans, any kind of help with business planning. If you need any help with that, you can contact info@mccdmn.org or call 612-789-7337. They have lots of different things available. Like I said, direct loans, business planning. They can help with almost anything with new entrepreneurs or somebody who maybe needs just a gap in between to keep their business going. So check them out because it was really interesting, very helpful.
Very good, thank you. The other commission that we have in the city is the Environmental Management Commission. There was no meeting for that group. The next is the Planning Commission. Their May 5 meeting was canceled, so there's no report. The next group is the Parks and Recreation Commission. Also, they didn't have a meeting, and nor did the Tree Board, the group that I'm liaison with. So there was no meeting there. So we'll move right on to the staff reports. And the first one is with city engineering. Good evening again, Mr. Bachmeyer.
Evening. First item I have is to review and approve the feasibility report for the 40th Street Improvement Project. This project was initiated by a petition from the developer. There are actually two property owners, Mario Cucciarella, which is White Star Farms, and then also the Springs at Willow Creek, Eric Tom with Continental Real Estate. They signed the petition. And so this report was prepared in response to that petition. And really what they asked us to do is do the improvements associated with the storm sewer and street improvements on the new 40th Street alignment. The developer, Willowbrook, is in the process right now of installing the water and sewer on this new alignment and doing the demolition of the existing 40th Street and working with the private utilities on relocating those facilities along the existing 40th Street on this new alignment. So this project will be a 38-foot wide street. It is a collector street on a curvilinear alignment that's consistent with the Willowbrook planned unit development and also consistent with the master funding agreement that talked about how the project will be financed with a combination of special assessments to the benefiting properties and then also city participating in the project. The master funding agreement did cap the city share of the project. So that line item is consistent with what's in the master funding agreement. The estimate is higher than what was reflected previously, and I guess that's a result of the current market, construction market that we have out there. And as a result, the assessments associated will be going up by a similar amount. With that, the council action requested tonight is to accept the report and call for the public improvement hearing on June 14th. With that, I'd stand for any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Brian. Councilors, anything for Brian? Could I have a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion to waive reading, adopt resolution number 2022, accepting the feasibility report, call for the public improvement hearing on June 14th, 2022, and authorizing the preparation of plans and specifications.
Is the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Is the motion and the second? Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes as presented. Thank you. We'll take the next one.
Yes, the next council action we're looking for is approval of the construction plans related to this project, 40th Street. Again, these plans were prepared consistent with what was in the master funding agreement and also the plan unit development for Willowbrook. It will also include the first locally owned roundabout in our community at the intersection of Helmo Avenue and 40th Street. Their construction plans, there's not much I can say other than they include the street, the sidewalk, the trails, and the storm sewer and the street lighting associated with the project. With that, I'd stand for any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Brian. Councilors, anything for Brian?
I have one question. I'm not sure if it should go to Brian or City Administrator Volkers. In the resolution, there's a line that says, pursuant to City Policy FR 016, the City Council declares the application of prevailing wage provisions shall apply to this project. What is that policy?
Chris, can you help us, or Brian?
Go ahead, Brian.
It's prevailing wage requirements, so they are required to post the scale for all the workers that are working on the site.
Oh, for the contractor?
Yes,
Got it.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? No. Could I have a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion to waive reading, adopt resolution number 2022, approving the plans and specifications for City Project 2022-02, the 40th Street North reconstruction, and authorize the advertisement of bids.
Is a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes as presented. Mr. Bachmeyer, we take this last one too?
Yes, the third item I have is to approve a project to replace the storm sewer on Hudson Boulevard. Last council meeting, we had MnDOT representative Adam Josephs, the East Area Manager, here talking about all the projects MnDOT is currently underway in our area. And one of the projects he identified was the I-94 resurfacing project that's going to be starting at Trunk Highway 120 and going to the St. Croix River. One of the items he mentioned in that presentation is they're not only looking at the pavement, but the storm sewer system, all the culverts that cross underneath I-94. They did identify one of them that was in very poor condition. That storm sewer also continues underneath Hudson Boulevard, which is our roadway. And it's a corrugated metal pipe, very old. It's rusting, the bottom is gone, and it's also settling in certain areas. Their conclusion is it needs to be replaced. And what they asked us if we were interested in replacing our portion of the pipe that's underneath Hudson Boulevard. It's about 82 feet long. Obviously, this was a project that was not in our capital improvement plan, and we didn't have any funding available for the project. But we did take a look at three options. One of them was to try to do the improvements now with the Gold Line project, and we had identified an estimated cost of $92,000. The Ramsey-Washington Metro Watershed District is also looking at doing some additional storm sewer improvements, putting in larger pipes for the outlet of Tanner's Lake into Battle Creek Lake to reduce some of the flooding levels. So there was an opportunity for them to also participate in the project. They would be enlarging the pipe that we were replacing. So if we were to do a joint project with the Watershed District, our share would go down slightly, their share would go up a little bit. The city cost would be $72,000. They also indicated a willingness to advance the funding for the city, our share of the project, with a commitment that we would pay it back within a period of time. We've identified 5 years, something that we could reflect in our capital improvement program and give our surface water management fund an opportunity to reach a more comfortable level. So again, the city cost for that option is $72,000. The other option is for us not to do a project at this time, but to do a project independent at a future date. And if we did that project, it would require the restoration of Hudson Boulevard that is just going to be constructed with the Gold Line project. So that would be a $166,000 cost estimate. So what we're looking forward to tonight, our recommendation is that the council approve a project and allow staff to pursue the agreement with the Ramsey-Washington Watershed District that would allow them to advance the funding for the city share of the project with no interest and no administrative fees. With that, I'd stand for any questions the council may have.
So clarity piece, the recommendation is to approve the project at 72,235, which is the combined project with the Gold Line project. Got it.
Correct.
Councilors, any questions? Could I have a motion then, please?
Make a motion to approve the pipe replacement project for pipe replacement for surface water from Tanner's Lake to Battle Creek Lake, and authorize the mayor and city administrator to enter into an agreement with Ramsey-Washington Metropolitan Watershed District for payback in 2027 with no interest or fees in the amount of $72,235.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then motion passes as presented.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Next up is time with our community development director. And Andy, you're going to take us through the first project? Very good. Good evening, John. And go ahead for the record, your name and company and age.
Not height?
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Shardlow with Stantec Consulting. The application is before you is a continued public hearing for the Rios Church for a conditional use permit and a variance. I've just handed to the city clerk a letter from Pastor Luis Rivera, who is ill this evening and wasn't able to attend. So it's a relatively short letter that we wanted entered into the record. I wasn't in attendance at the previous hearing, but I did review the minutes and the conversation that you had. And I understand that there were some issues that had been addressed with respect to stormwater and some screening issues and some landscaping issues. Just want to report to the council that there's been good progress on those issues and that we're very satisfied that those issues have been addressed. The primary concern that the city council expressed, in my understanding, is with respect to the proposed solutions for off-site parking to deal with the fact that the site plan as currently configured does not include the required parking as required by ordinance. And so there had been a couple of different options that have been pursued. Again, my understanding was that the direction that the council gave to the applicant was to go back and try and see how many additional parking spaces could be found on the site, and that to request variance from the amount of parking and no longer pursue the off-site parking solutions. There's really three options available to the council tonight. One would be, well, first of all, I should say that they were able to find 9 additional parking spaces. So they're reaching approximately 90% of the requirement. So one of the things that the city council could do would be to deny the application because it doesn't meet the required parking, deny the variance application. And if you were to do that, we would then need to attach a condition to the conditional use permit that would require them to reduce the capacity in the sanctuary and the meeting rooms so as to match up and comply with the requirement. So that's option number one. Option number two would be to approve the variance based upon the information that's contained in the background report. It talks about how close it comes to meeting the requirement and talks about national standards and so forth. There's really a third option, which has been handed out to you, and that is the option of approving the variance with a condition. And that condition, and let me just read it to you, approval of the variance is conditioned upon the approval and maintenance of a parking management plan. This plan shall require periodic monitoring and reporting of the adequacy of on-site parking to support the church's operation. If the demand for parking exceeds the capacity in an amount and frequency defined as significant, the owner shall implement mitigation measures outlined in the parking mitigation plan. These mitigation actions may include, but are not limited to, busing, van pooling, ride sharing. If the implementation of the parking management plan is unsuccessful in alleviating the parking shortage, the city reserves the right to require the limitation of seating capacity, meeting spaces, and use to meet the ordinance requirement. The parking management plan shall be prepared by the owners and approved by the city staff. Conditions that require the initiation of actions shall be defined in that plan, but the city shall retain the authority to administer and enforce this condition. Prepare a parking, and you should disregard that final sentence. So those are the three options that are available to the council. Happy to answer any questions, and the project architect and civil engineer are present and available to answer detailed questions as well.
Thank you, John. Councilors, anything for John?
I have a question.
Councilmember Zabel.
John, can you explain those mitigation actions a little bit more? May include but not limited to busing, van pooling, and ride sharing. Particularly the busing, this council's already expressed no desire in off-site parking. Is this referring to busing that doesn't involve off-site parking within the city?
Yeah, let me answer that a little bit elliptically. I've been on my church council for a long time, and it would be a really happy problem for us if our parking lot was filled to overflowing. Happens maybe once or twice per year. This is a church, as I understand it, that currently has 600 members, and they're building a sanctuary with 900 seats in it. So it's reasonable to expect that it wouldn't be at capacity much of the time. But I also know that most of the churches that I'm familiar with have some kind of van or some kind of shuttle bus that they use to pick up seniors, for instance, and other ways of providing opportunities during events for people to get to and from the site. So we're not dictating exactly how they would do it, but we're saying that if, based upon a plan, and the plan would define what those conditions are that would trigger a requirement for mitigation, that they would then take steps to mitigate the parking issues. I know that there's already been a decision to post no parking on the street in front of it. From my review of the way this property is situated and its relationship with the existing neighborhood, it's very unlikely that people are going to park in the neighborhood because it's such a long walk. And so the idea would be to define what is a problem, and then when there is a problem, they would have the opportunity to mitigate it. They're a church that's currently in St. Paul, so conceivably many of their constituents are in St. Paul. So there could be an opportunity for them to pick up people there, or simply just word from the pulpit, if you will, encouraging people to do ride sharing and try and mitigate that issue. So it's really saying to the church, we still reserve the right to limit the capacity to meet the ordinance. So you're preserving that right, but you're giving them a chance to solve the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for John? This is a very significant project, and if the applicant does want to come up, or the architect does want to come up and introduce yourself and say a few words, I'd welcome you to the podium. Good evening.
Good evening. Good to see you. Thank
So
you for having us.
Just a few words, if you would.
I'm Peter Hill. I'm the project architect. This is Mr. Robert Latta. He is the site engineer. He probably can tell you a lot more technically than I can. Unfortunately, our clients were all got sick. I talked to Yolanda this morning, and she sounded horrible. So you're stuck with us. We appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions at all. I don't know, I can't foresee what questions you might have here. We have certainly made an attempt, as John pointed out, that we made an attempt to remedy everything that we've been presented with that we possibly could. But we're very happy to be as cooperative as we can.
Thank you. Councilors, anything for the architect or civil engineer? City Attorney Thompson.
I just want to inquire, maybe you can, is the condition that Mr. Shadlow read, is that acceptable to your client?
Yep. We're easy. We're very easy.
You know, I should say that there has been some good give and take and good adjustments and good trying to seek a solution to some concerns that have been raised. So that's really appreciated.
Thank you.
The one thing that I thought about, John, as you're reading this additional condition is if there could be a time where that's completed and approved. One thing that crossed my mind is that gets done prior to certificate of occupancy. So prior to just
Oh,
operation
goodness,
starting.
no, we'll do this
I know
right
you'll
away.
do it.
No, we'll do this right away. We have a transportation consultant already on the project. He's already written a plan for the plan that didn't work. So we'll have him write a plan for the plan that will work.
Okay.
It's no problem at all.
So you okay if we add a final line to this condition as that is completed prior to the certificate of occupancy?
Oh, absolutely, not a problem.
Councilors, would you be okay with that as an additional element? Anything else?
Can I ask a question of staff?
Sure.
So when can we expect action on the parking changes on, is that Helena? The parking restrictions on that street that Mr. Shardlow mentioned, you know,
That's
restricting.
Hamlet?
Helena? Hamlet, thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor, City Council, Andrew Getzloff can address that from our Community Development Department.
Andrew Getzloff, Community Development Director. We could, we'd have that prior to certificate of occupancy as well.
Okay.
Do you want that added to the conditions, or?
No, I
or
mean,
you just want it?
it'll be a council resolution to change
Yeah.
that anyway,
right,
so.
right, okay.
Yeah, it's a standalone action.
Just
Yeah.
regarding the C of O, we're at least a year away.
I know. That's why I chose it, because it gives you plenty of time
Yeah.
to
No.
Right.
get that figured
That's
out.
not a problem.
I wouldn't think so. Councilors, anything else?
What's the process? I mean, we have three options in
Yeah,
front of
so-
us. Jim, what's the best way?
Well, the first action on the agenda is the variance, so I suggest you make the motion to if it's appropriate to approve the variance using option number 3 as Mr. Shadlow suggested.
Wouldn't it be option number 2?
Okay,
It's
so,
not, it's option 2, I'm
Chris
sorry.
numbered copies for us, and they were a little off from what
Well,
John covered.
Whatever
so-
Chris says.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
should it? Okay, Mr. Mayor, City Council, we didn't have this ahead of time, so the
Right.
way John ordered it was different than the way we ordered it. So the one you have listed, option number 2, is the one he's
right.
being proposed, which is the approval with the condition.
Okay.
So it's, just for clarity with people listening and watching, it's a resolution approving a variance for the reduction in on-site parking for the proposed, Iglesia Rios de Agua Viva Church at 7287 Stillwater Boulevard North. And it has the, many of the whereases with the final condition being added as far as this creation and implementation of this parking management plan before the certificate of occupancy.
And requiring that that plan be completed by certificate of occupancy.
Yeah, prior to,
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where in that condition that fits in, but it's in there somewhere.
last
Yeah.
sentence.
Perfect.
So you've got a motion?
I will, yeah, somewhere. I'll make a motion to approve a variance to allow less on-site parking of 217 stalls where 245 stalls are required by the city code, containing the following condition as amended by the mayor.
Very good. There's a motion.
For option 2.
For option 2, yes.
We don't have to say that?
That's
Okay.
the only one with a
Okay.
condition, an additional condition, yeah.
All right.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the motion passes as presented. Thank you. Thank you very much.
There's more.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Andy.
CUP.
No.
We got 2 more.
We have 2 more motions. Can I have a motion for the second one about the conditional use?
I'll make a motion to
Permit.
approve a conditional use permit for construction of a church in the R2 zoning district on the property located at 7287 Stillwater Boulevard with conditions included in the attached resolution.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes as presented. And we're moving fairly quickly on these because of the amount of discussion that has been had already on them. So there's a third motion dealing with the site plan for the church. Could I have a motion on that, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan for Rios de Agua Viva Church located at 7287 Stillwater Boulevard as shown in the attached plans with conditions included in the attached resolution.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then that motion passes as presented. Thank you. And thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll supply the shovels.
I love it. We'll look forward to it. Next up on the agenda is time with our city attorney, Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, nothing specific to report, but happy to answer questions.
Counselors, anything for Jim? Okay, thank you, Jim. Next up would be time with our city administrator, Ms. Volkers. Anything, Chris?
No, Mr. Mayor, City Council, nothing to report. Thank you.
Anything for Chris, guys? Very good. Next up on the agenda is the council presentations. I think tonight I'll start on my left with Councilmember Zabel.
Just one, I want to wish the Tartan Relay for Life group well. They have their annual event coming up on May 20th. So next Friday. It's always a tremendous event that they put on. They raise a lot of money for the American Cancer Society. And it's really something that our community can be proud of. They're one of the top raising teams in the country, I believe. They've raised millions of dollars over the years. So best wishes to all of them for what they do that night.
Very good.
Yeah, thanks.
Great comment. Councilmember Swedberg, anything?
Just want to say thanks to Public Works and Lauren, our forester, and his crew for Arbor Day. Even though he did everything perfect, but he didn't order good weather. So
close.
Yeah, it's so close. Council members, Olson and I froze our hands, our fingers it was quite cold, but it still was a pleasure to see everyone. and people still made comments how greatly it was organized, and they were able to come in and go in the lanes and get with their cars, get their tree, and then go on their way. So people really like this way we've been doing it the last couple years. So thank you, everyone. So next year, we'll try to have better weather.
Thank you,
Yep.
Councilmember Swedberg. Councilmember Olson.
Nothing for me, except for I agree with Colleen. We need better weather next year.
Councilmember Ingebrigtsen.
My only comment, I believe Councilmember Swedberg is placing blame for the weather in the wrong place. It should be Paul Douglas.
Okay.
And myself, I've got nothing to add except to concur. Wonderful
Yeah.
from the tree board
Yep.
to the public works to
Everyone.
the setup and the tear down and the.
Oh, the
people
master
were
gardeners, too.
And the master gardeners, thank you.
Yes, they did a nice job, too.
Agreed.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, under your report, you were going to read my summary for my performance eval?
Yes,
So here I come.
yes, yes.
I want you to move on.
So, quick background context, was it last meeting?
Yep.
We, council adjourned to a closed session and I had a very good, frank discussion regarding City Administrator Volker's performance. And we were led in that process by City Attorney Thompson on the manner of collecting comments and also sharing them. So with that, I've got a summary here that I'd like to enter in the record. So this is a statement by the Mayor REINKE summarizing the conclusions reached regarding the City Council's performance evaluation of the City Administrator, which was conducted on April 26th, 2022. So the City Council met in closed session on April 26th, 2022 to conduct the performance evaluation of City Administrator Chris Volkers. The City Council concluded that Chris had done an outstanding job as City Administrator since taking that position in June 2020. She has had a wide range of experience and is highly competent in all aspects of her job. She had a tall task ahead of her when she became City Administrator because of the COVID-19 pandemic, development growth in the city, and other issues that the city faced at that time. She'd made the council members better at their jobs, and all council members were very glad that Chris accepted the City Administrator's position and were greatly appreciative of her work. She has a strong work ethic and has put in place new staff leadership team that can lead the city into the future. She is very much the captain of the ship, and the City Council is looking forward to working with her and her new team in the upcoming years. So, thank you very much, and well done.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda would be the award of bid. I think, Mr. Bachmeier? You can just sit up here if you'd like.
Yeah,
Sit up.
yeah, you might as well.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On April 25th, we did open bids for the Lift Station 6 project. This was a project that was in our capital improvement program. Two contractors did submit bids for the work, Pembroke Contracting and Minger Construction. And I will comment that Minger Construction has done two previous lift stations for the city of Oakdale over the last 2 years. So we were relieved to see them bid on this project again this year. Unfortunately, Pembroke Contracting had a little bit lower bid than Minger. But to me, it reflects the very competitive bidding nature of the construction season. And this project did come in over estimate. There's a few things that contributed to that. One, I will comment that the initial estimate that we did for this lift station was a year ago, actually a little over a year ago, because we did it as part of that joint sewer study with the city of Lake Elmo. And so I would say that in some respects, we should have probably updated that estimate going into the capital improvement program last fall. But also, I think we are seeing a very, very elevated bidding climate right now. We really don't see any advantage to delaying the bid. In fact, the forecast is this is going to continue on for the next year or so. So we do recognize that it does result in an increase in cost to both cities, Lake Elmo and Oakdale. Lake Elmo did consider it at their meeting last week, and they did approve their share of the project. They did concur with the award. So just as it relates to Oakdale, it will result in an additional draw on the utility reserve fund of approximately $406,000. This will result in a balance of $256,000 through 2026. So we have the 5-year CIP. This reduces that balance, but we still can complete the projects that are in our current 5-year CIP program. The finance director has indicated that we should take this opportunity over the next, as we update the CIP and look forward to see what we can do to increase the balance of that fund. Pembroke Contracting has not done work in the city of Oakdale before, but they have done work in other communities around us, and we did get a favorable recommendation. So it is our recommendation that the contract be awarded to Pembroke Contracting in the amount of $1,227,658.40. With that, I'd stand for any questions the council may have.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. Councilors, any questions?
Question.
Mr. Zabel?
So Brian, I understand the contract, or the bid is 1.2 million, and then add the 5% contingency and the 210,000 for engineering, and it takes us to just shy of 1.5 million. But when I add up those numbers and under the funding source table, we're off by about $50,000. Where's that discrepancy? So Lake Elmo's share is 499,
Right.
E's say 500,000. Oakdale's utility reserves contribution is 1.05.
Yes.
That should be 1.55, right?
Or 1.00?
The total project financing should be close to, it should be
Looks like.
1,549,000, not 1,499,000.
So the total is $1,499,000. So the city of Oakdale share should actually be, yeah, you're right, $50,000 less than the 1.4. It should be closer to 1 million.
So it'd be 1,328,000.
Yep.
Well,
Or 92.
999,328.
Yeah.
And then I know this is, I mean, it's a couple $100, but up above it says the number ends in $41.32, but it's $328.92 in that table. Which one's correct?
I apologize. So the total amount bid doesn't include the engineering and contingency.
Correct.
So where is the difference then? So 1,227, 65840. So that's the Pembroke Contracting Award.
I think they're 60 cents. Is that what you're
We're
saying?
looking at about $287 difference.
So Councilmember Zabel's picking it up right at that financial considerations.
Right.
Based on this bid, the total project cost is estimated.
1,499. Okay.
Would councilors be acceptable to the notion of approving the total project financing? Is that 1,499,000?
Well, I guess the question before us is to accept the bid.
Right.
So the contract with the vendor, that's not changing. So I think that's okay. It's just, how much are we paying? How much is coming out of our utility reserves? If finance staff knows that we're not paying 1.049 million because that's not actually our share, I think we're okay to keep moving forward. It's just, I just want to make sure the numbers add up and we know what our share actually is. I don't want to pay an extra 50,000 out of utility reserves when we're already drawing it down to 265.
Kevin, I think you're right on track, right on the money with, let's get the contract award done so that can continue, and ask staff to come back with the right breakouts and the right numbers.
Okay.
Good catch. So, any other questions? Can I have a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion to waive reading, adopt resolution number 2022 awarding city project U 2022-02, the lift station 6 improvements contract to Pember Companies, Inc., in the amount of $1,227,658.40.
So there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the motion passes as presented. One thing that's pretty amazing too, when you think about this, $1.25 million contract, and there's a $26,000 difference between the two of them.
Yeah.
It's a tight
Yes.
tight market, as
Yeah.
elevated as it is, which
Right.
drives us nuts, but
Right.
it's still two competitive bids. Thank you, Brian.
All right, thank you.
In our packet, we had the summary of claims, the roster of claims, which is from April 23rd, 2022 through May 6th, 2022, in the amount of $176,044.93. Counselors, any questions on this? Could I have a motion then, please?
Motion to approve claims as presented.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then the motion is approved as presented. And then can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you and good night.